Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo. As we begin our meeting today, I'd like to thank and acknowledge Browning Kuzno as this month's sponsor, and Rotarian Brent Kuzno. Where are you, Brent? I know I saw you earlier. There he is, over there. Thanks, Brent. We'll throw your picture up. There's your picture. There we go. Before we get started today, too, as we always do, let's take a quick moment to check in for the membership engagement. So we've got our QR code, so check your QR code. If you've been doing this, you've probably hit committee meetings in the last few days or a few weeks, and other events. I know people have been checking it at district events and other places, so you got to keep those numbers running up so that you guys can stay ahead and or catch up with Mark Urudia, so that's very important. Yeah, it's going to be tough. At this time, I'd like to ask Pat Sheehan to come to the podium, please, and deliver reflection and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Good afternoon. This Sunday is the annual Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure right out here at Hensville. And I've got to believe that each one of us has had some encounter with breast cancer, right? Either personally or through a loved one. In fact, I'm guessing some of you may be in a battle as we speak, right? So with that in mind, let's pause for a quick prayer. Dear God, any kind of cancer is really scary. The diagnosis, the treatments, the anxiety of scans, the unknown. We ask you to lift up those individuals that are going through this experience today. Please give them strength and peace. Thank you for the incredible progress our medical community has made with early detection and better treatments. We ask for your blessing this Sunday as our community celebrates survivors of breast cancer and honors those that have lost their battle with this disease. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Pat. You got me with that one today, Pat. I didn't know you were doing that. My wife was actually diagnosed last year with breast cancer, and then miraculously, luckily, had probably the best course of treatment that one could. So it was really actually a great, once she got through it, the experience, she had great doctors and everything else. So it's a significant issue in our community, especially today, also for younger women. So it's a big challenge, and I encourage all of you to support the Susan G. Komen Foundation. Thanks, appreciate that, Pat. Does anyone have any guests today that they'd like to introduce that they've brought? Zach is in the center of the room with the mic. Maybe we just have one or two.
Good afternoon, President Scott. Good afternoon, Rotarians. Today I have Mark Casson with me. He's the new regional market executive at Civista Bank. So he's my boss.
Nice. Welcome, boss.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm actually bringing this guest today on behalf of Scott Henshaw, and his name is Brent Patmos, and he is the president and COO of Freshmark Industries, and Brent Patmos, and if you would all welcome, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Brent. We got a prospective member there, too, so appreciate him coming and joining us. At this time, I'd like to ask Carol Subcheck to come to the podium for an announcement related to the Friendship Committee.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carol Sopchak, as you know, and I am the chair this year of the Friendship Committee, which is undergoing a resurgence this year. Let's cheer the Friendship Committee. We need members. Yes, we do. I brought my own cheerleader today, too, who I will introduce in a second. Most of you know Chuck Mann. He is a past president of our club and a past chair of the Friendship Committee, and we want to, I don't want to say resurrect. Okay. We want to resurrect the committee this year. I hope that that doesn't offend anyone. But so this is Chuck Mann, and he's going to be talking with us and helping me talk about the Friendship Committee and what we do.
This just in. This is a church bulletin. Many of you went to church yesterday and got this bulletin on the way in or on the way out or both. These are excerpts from actual church bulletins. I got this information from the internet, and as everyone knows, it's got to be true because that's where I found it. In the last one says, Miss Charlene Manson sang, "I will not pass this way again," giving obvious pleasure to the congregation.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Let me tell you what the Friendship Committee is all about. You know, we do service above self for our community and for the world in Rotary, but the Friendship Committee is about cheerleading each other, about doing friendship for each other, being there for each other, being a friend to our members, and providing moral support to each other. So our committee, whoops. Fall over the cord. Our committee really wants to publicize in any way that we all deem appropriate things that each other that we have accomplished. Maybe you have a promotion, or maybe you have a new job, or maybe you just had a new baby in your family somewhere, child, grandchild. Well, we want to share that information with each other. So that's one of the things that we're going to be doing. So if you become a member of the committee, then people will tell you what's going on in their lives, and hopefully we can publicize that. And I think Chuck might have something to say about that.
At the evening service tonight, the sermon topic will be, "What is Hell?" Come early and listen to our choir practice.
Another thing the Friendship Committee will do, hopefully, is if anyone knows that any Rotarian would like to be here at our meeting and does not have transportation or cannot drive or otherwise has some impediment that can be overcome with help from one of us, that's another thing that the Friendship Committee is going to do.
8 new choir robes are currently needed due to the addition of several new members and the deterioration of some older ones.
Don't you just love it? This is real life. We also, on a more somber note, anytime a member is ill or is undergoing something, that they might need a little support with, whether it's chemotherapy or just can't get out of bed or needs a ride to a hospital or a doctor, we want to be able to provide support for that also.
For those of you who have children and don't know it, we have a nursery downstairs.
Oh, God, I hope, never mind. Also, on an even more somber note, if there is a death in anyone's family or any Rotarian passes, the Friendship Committee will try to provide comfort to the family by having a card outside that members can sign, by having someone from Rotary represented at a service if there is one. So, we just want to be cheerleaders for each other. We just want to support our members just like we support our community. And I think Chuck might want to have a final word before I finish. No? Two words. Okay.
Potluck supper Sunday at 5 p.m. Prayer and medication to follow.
All right, this is my last word. Are you sure you don't want another one?
No, we'll
Okay.
throw another one in here. Low self-esteem support group will meet Thursday at 7 p.m. Please use the back door.
Okay. So if you would like to be a member of the Friendship Committee, we don't have a lot of meetings. There aren't a lot of requirements. You just have to be someone that the club knows. We can go to a member of the Friendship Committee and say, Susie really needs a ride, or I just heard so-and-so was sick, or anything like that. Be a member of our committee. There are not too many, or really any, responsibilities, but there's a lot of good that you're going to get from being a cheerleader for other members of our club. So thank you so much, everyone. Let's become members of the Friendship Committee. One more. And one more thing, the only way you can do it is to sign up on DACDB, so if you don't know how to do that, please talk to me or Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol and Chuck. I think I just got a flashback to Chuck's chuckles, but I could be wrong. No. It's a good flashback, promise. Excellent. Whitney Keeler, the chair of the Youth Services Committee, also would like to give us an announcement about an upcoming committee project.
That's a hard act to follow. I will not be that entertaining. So the Youth Services Committee wanted to announce to you, as of 2/19 today, it is actually going to be officially autumn. And with that in mind, we are, for the third year in a row, partnering with Care for Kids to collect coats for their annual coat drive. If we can go to the next slide here. We are asking, we will have actually donation bins here from September 29th at all of our Monday meetings until November 24th. And all of these coats will be distributed through the following organizations: the Boys and Girls Club of Toledo, Susie's Coats for Kids, and the YMCA. And we also have two of those organizations represented here through Toledo Rotary as well. We are asking that all of these coats be brand new so that every child who receives a coat can receive one of equal quality as everyone else. So if you have the opportunity, I know usually, Sam's Club and Costco are great places to pick up really affordable new coats, but it is going to start getting colder, unbelievably, and this is a great opportunity to help a lot of local families. Thank you.
Thanks, Whitney. Okay, let's get to today's program. Sylvia Roop is with us today. She is the lead foster parent recruiter for SAFY, Specialized Alternatives for Family and Youth. SAFY is a non-profit therapeutic foster care agency. They train, license, and support homes and families during their journey to becoming a foster and adoption family. Sylvia has over 15 years' experience working with young people living in difficult situations, and she's here to discuss with us today what the services that they provide, as well as to break any stigmas, talk about ways that we can help local foster youth. So welcome, Sylvia.
Thank you. Good afternoon. First, I just want to thank everyone for inviting me to even come up here and speak. I know foster care isn't the most exciting thing to talk about on your Monday afternoon, but I promise we will learn a lot together. I'm here to break stigmas and give you guys some local statistics that are very current. So just a little bit about me, right? Let's talk about Sylvia. So I am a mother of two, a wife, but I have been in this field for over 15 years. I've worked with youth in treatment centers. I've worked with youth in detention centers. Believe it or not, I was a correctionals officer at one point in my life. I've worked with youth who have suffered from long-term homelessness. I've even worked with youth who are currently suffering in poverty, helping them get jobs and build resumes and things like that. But my most exciting career this far is working with youth in foster care. And I'll tell you why. Through all the other steps, I just saw a youth in crisis. I didn't get to carry them or see them through their timeline to that happily ever after. Here at SAFY, we have so many adoptions, and it's truly my favorite part because I get to see the happily ever after, right? I get to see when they first came to us, how many struggles they had to overcome, what therapeutic needs we were able to fulfill for them, and then see them carry that on, right? So they taught me this. It's on, okay, let's see. Okay, so let's talk about SAFY. Can I actually take this off? Is that okay? I don't know, yeah, okay. I'm a walker, okay. So SAFY, we stand for Specialized Alternatives for Family and Youth. Go ahead and raise your hand if you've heard of us. A couple, okay. So we have been around for 42 years. We are a nonprofit. What we do out in the community is very important, and we always like to give back. But essentially, we recruit, train, and license current foster homes. We support them before, during, and after their whole process. The youth that come into our care, we know they are getting trauma-informed care. We know we are providing that therapeutic support. Our case managers who do that one-on-one with them kind of lead them through the crisis of being in foster care. So just a little bit about SAFI, right? We are all over the state of Ohio, but our location around here is located in Findlay. But even though we serve Lucas County is one of our biggest referral sources. So we work really closely, right, with you folks. So just a little bit what we do for our families, right? We provide that one-on-one training. We have fun events. We have in-person events for our families to get together and network, financial reimbursement, and then respite. Respite is just a term that we use. It just means short-term or emergency care only. So here's where SAFI is at, right? We are in 7 different states, with Ohio being the largest. And then we are all over Ohio, like I said, Findlay, Lima, Dayton, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, and Canton, Akron. Findlay, up until recently, was one of the largest divisions that we've had because we covered such a large area, and we still do cover such a large area. So what is therapeutic care? Really quick, right? We're talking about foster care. How many people here is a foster parent? Raise your hand if you have been a foster parent, okay? How many of you here know of a foster parent? It's a friend, a family member, the crazy neighbor with the big old van down the street, right? Yeah. Something that I want you to do really quick. I'm not here to say, oh my goodness, everyone should be a foster parent. So easy, here's all the things to get started. I'm here to say it's actually really hard. I'm here to say that it is life-changing for those who actually commit to become a foster parent. So those who all just raised their hand of knowing someone, next time you see them, just let them know that you appreciate them. Let them know that what they're doing is amazing, and not everyone can do that in their shoes, okay? So therapeutic foster care, right? I've kind of thrown out some of the verbiage of trauma-informed care, therapeutic services. What that means is we are able to provide extra resources to our foster parents. We are always advocating for our foster parents, so that way they can then fulfill these resources to our youth. They can then advocate for the youth in their home because they know SAFI has their back. So here are just some statistics around foster care, but I actually want to take a deeper dive into that. So at SAFI, we keep a call log of all of our calls from the previous week. And what that looks like is every Monday, so like today, I was able to pull up this call log and see how many phone calls we got just last week, Monday through Friday. So when I say phone calls, I mean youth coming into care, okay? What that kind of looks like, excuse me. So this is how new the statistic is. I wrote it on a little note, right, in my car because I had to read it on the way up here. So just last week, SAFI received over 93 phone calls. SAFI of Ohio, 93 phone calls. That is 93 youth who experienced neglect, abuse, who got removed from their home, the only community where they were from, 93, okay? SAFI was able to place 14 of the 93. Just let that sink in for a moment. It's not for, so 14, right? 93 out of 14, or 14 out of 93. That doesn't seem very big, right? It's not for lack of trying, right? We have round of the clock support, or our intake director is always on these phone calls, making sure our foster parents are fulfilling those needs. Our foster parents that are current and very loving and active, their homes are full, right? They don't have any more beds available. So that's kind of what I mean. It's not for lack of trying, right? The foster homes that we are giving calls for, we're able to fulfill 14. 9 of those came from Lucas County, our community. 9 kids that we probably see, hear, know about every day got removed from their home, okay? So here are just some couple more statistics, right? 52% are males, 48% females. The average age of a youth who is in foster care is 8.5. Something that's not up here, how long do kids typically stay in foster care? That number is so different, but it's anywhere from 6 months to 18 months is that average length of a youth who stays in foster care. So you guys can kind of read through this, right? I don't need to go through the dynamics, but I think it's really important to note that our kids, right, we're always needing new families to come into foster care. So I don't expect everyone to jump up and run into a line and say, I want to be a foster parent, right? What I am expecting or challenging you with is actually just taking the time to talk with 10 people. Talk about foster care, talk about SAFI, talk about the need of foster parents to 10 people this week. Because you never know who you're interacting with that might be thinking about foster care, they just don't know how to get started. Or, I went through the process so many years ago, it wasn't the right time for me and my family, but you know what? I'm glad you're talking about this because now is the time. Even liking us on social media, SAFI of Ohio on Facebook, please go and like us and share and just spread awareness. That is what I'm challenging you with, because you never know who you're running into that might be interested. So my number one question that I get, or number one concern is, I would love to be a foster parent, but I heard this one time, right? They hear the one story on the news or something that happened to one family 20 years ago. So let's talk about it, right? Our number one need in Lucas County are sibling groups. That is children, I would say, I wouldn't even say 2, I would say 3 on average is a sibling group of youth coming into care. Our second biggest need are actually teenagers. So when I talk about teenagers, they're like, oh, no, that's okay. You can keep the teens. We'll foster the little kids, right? And I completely get that, right? Because teens are kind of scary, not gonna lie. But here's the thing, okay? So I'm standing in front of you here today speaking to everyone, but we have what we call a face sheet. When a kid comes into care, we by law have to tell everything we know about the kid to the foster parent that is either going to accept or deny the placement. We give that information is based off of their face sheet. If you've been into care for some time, it can have everything you're good at, what you're bad at, why you need a tutor, why you got removed, your favorite color used to be pink, but now it's purple, right? It can have so many details. So I took this face sheet. I took it to prospective foster parents, families who are saying, I don't know if we can really do the teenagers, right? So I took a 15-year-old girl, I blocked out her name, but I left her information. I then filled out my own face sheet from when I was 15 years old, okay? I blocked out my information, but everything that I would have been labeled with If I was a child in foster care, I put all my business on there, okay? I still do this today. I put both sheets in front of foster parents, prospective foster parents, and I have them choose one. Which kid would you welcome into your home? I've never been picked. Not one time. I've been with Safi for 7 years doing this exercise. I've not once been picked. And it still makes me laugh, right? The one time I had to call my mom, I was like, was I that bad? Right? But let's talk about it, okay? I snuck out the window to go hang out with friends, so I am now considered a runaway or AWOL. I tried cigarettes. Even though I do not do cigarettes now, I tried them. I would have been labeled as a smoker. I didn't get straight A's, right? I was just kind of there because I had to, right? I wasn't athletic, so I was part of student council, but wasn't really into all the extracurriculars. Well, she's not active. She doesn't really care about her grades, things like that, right? So just put yourself in that perspective really quick. When you were 15, 16, 17, everything that you did, everything that your parents knew, imagine that being blasted to families that you don't even know. And they're judging that to see if they want to welcome you into their home or not. So it's just a different perspective, right? I'm hopeful. Maybe one day I'll get picked, right? Fingers crossed. I'll probably cry when that happens. Just watch. Yeah. But that just talks a little bit about the stigmas of foster care, right? Why should you care? Why does this affect you and your community? Because we're living and breathing it. These kids are going to grow up. These kids are going to become something one day. But the statistics are not in their favor, right? The one slide here, I'll go back, of how many actually end up going through foster or going to college versus the ones that less than 3% will graduate from college. The odds aren't in their favor. The ones that do succeed have a mentor, have someone out in the community who cares, right? Who sticks through all their struggles, who just kind of tries to relate. Now I gotta go back really quick. So this is why you should care, because how many people here are business owners, right? How many people are in charge of their hiring department? How many people here work for nonprofits? These are the kids that are shaping our community, and you guys all have an impact. Like I said, I'm not expecting everyone to have a single file line once I'm done to become a foster parent. That's not what I'm here to say. And I would also never want to talk someone into becoming a foster parent, because then we're just setting them up to fail, and we're not setting the kids up for success. But I'm here to say that you can make an impact, right? How can you make an impact? Well, one of the ways is spreading awareness. Tell 10 people, hey, did you know less than 3% graduate from college? Hey, did you know that these kids get labeled with literally everything, and that's how a family can say they want them in their home or they don't want them in their home? So here are some things, right? You can become a foster parent. You can advocate, do community engagement. We are always looking for different types of donations. With that being said, there's certain things that we do throughout the year. So some of the items that we are always looking for are duffel bags that are filled. I will usually do a duffel bag rally around May or June of every year, because every kid that comes into care, our case manager will go in, fill up this duffel bag with age-appropriate items, and give it directly to the youth. It is structured that way. We don't give it to the foster parent. We don't just set it down, right? We give it directly to them, because at one given time, that is the only thing that they own. So it might be a deck of cards, a small puzzle, a fidget, a journal, headphones, blankets, hygiene items, right? We know our foster parents can provide toothpaste, we know that. But it's the moral of they don't have to ask where the toothpaste is because it's in this duffel bag that was made just for them. Some of the other items that we are always looking to be donated, we are looking for stockings this year. At our Christmas parties, we have anywhere from, I would say, 120 to 150 people who show up. Around 80% of that are kids. So it's not just foster parents, right? Usually when we have get-togethers, I just say we have a crap ton of kids and make sure the venue's okay with it. But we are looking for stockings this year. So if you and your business are looking for a way to give back this holiday season, please get a hold of me. I would love to tell you more ways that you can help, right? We also want to spread awareness. So I think on everyone's sheet, or everyone's table, there is a sheet, sorry. My information is directly on the bottom. That is my direct contact information, my Safi cell phone. If you have any questions or comments, or if you can't wait at the end of this to kind of talk a little bit more, please get a hold of me, email me. I would love to connect with local businesses, even if it's just spreading awareness, right? If you have to provide a training for your employees, come and invite me. I can talk about trauma-informed care. I can talk about trauma, how trauma affects the brain. I can literally talk about anything as long as I'm able to say, hey, if anyone's interested in becoming a foster parent, I hope you think of Safi. Okay? We would provide the lunch, donuts, coffee, whatever it is, right? How many here attend church? I love wearing my Sunday best and getting up in front of a congregation, right? Let your church know, hey, have we done anything for the community about foster care? Please invite me. This is a way that you're able to make a change. It's amazing how many people I meet out in the community that are like, I'm so glad you're coming today because I want to become a foster parent. My very first Rotary Club I actually went to, I met a lady who was a part of the Rotary Club, and she said, you guys will laugh, let me divorce my husband, and then I'll become a foster parent. And I'm not joking. She called me on the way home from the lawyer's office. We stopped for a cup of coffee, and she's already adopted 4 girls. So it's just, right? You never know who's interested, right? So, and I'm here, and I realize I just skipped the whole process on what it takes to become a foster parent. So just really quick, we can license a home under 90 days. I know this because my licensing specialist did it twice this quarter. I think we're about to do it for the 3rd time. And then, so we can license homes within 90 days. We provide incentives, whether it's getting your paperwork done. We provide $200 incentives for fire safety equipment because we want our foster parents to feel prepared during their safety audits. During this 90 days, they are taking 24 hours of pre-service training. This is where they learn all the trauma-informed care that we are specialized to train. This is a hybrid situation, so some is virtual, some is in person. And then we like to carry the support on through the whole entire way to getting that family licensed, right? Whether it's we sit down with interviews, right? We get to know our families. We want to write the best home study as possible. The only way to do that is to get to know them. We make sure all the other family members are okay in the home with also becoming a foster family, right? So if you have biological kids, sometimes we even have families who have custody of their grandkids becoming foster parents. So we just make sure everyone's on the same page. And then just support that family during the whole entire process. So that was a little bit on how to become a foster parent. I apologize, I completely skipped that part, right? So I'm not sure how much time. So I have one story, if it's okay. So a lot of people come up to me, right? I talked about some of the misconceptions that community members might have around foster care. But I have a really touching story about, I guess, the point. What's the point? They're only in my home for a short time, right? So what we do at one of our events, we had a summer picnic. This was years ago, and at the summer picnic, we invited everyone. We invited foster families, current and past. We invited youth who are bio, currently in care, aged out, adopted. We invited different divisions. It was just a big picnic, right, is what I'm trying to say. Well, at this picnic, we had a foster parent there, and for the sake of the story, I'll call her Mrs. Smith. I went up to Mrs. Smith, and we're just chit-chatting. And she said, "Do you see that young lady over there?" I'm like, "I sure do, Mrs. Smith." And she said, "She's older, but I think when she was a teenager, she was in my home." And I was like, "Oh, I love that. Let's go say hi." And Mrs. Smith is like, "No, thank you. You see, when she was in my home, we didn't really get along that well. She was a teenager, and we butt heads. And she was only in my home for like 3 or 4 months, so she probably doesn't even know me. She doesn't recognize me or remember me, right?" So I let it slide. Well, after some time, this young lady with 2 young kids of her own walk up to Mrs. Smith. And I see them rekindle. And I'll never forget this experience because I get to witness it with my own eyes. She's talking about her career, her job, how she went on to college. She talks about her fiance and her kids and all the fun things that they're doing, right? So I'm like, I love this. Well, Mrs. Smith confesses. She says, "I'm not going to lie. I saw you over there. And I wanted to say hi. I really did. But I was nervous because I knew when you were in my home you didn't like me that much, and I didn't want to offend you by saying hi." This young lady said something to Mrs. Smith that I will never forget. She said, when I was in your home, and I was only in your home for a short time, you taught me ethics, you taught me values, you showed me what boundaries were, you showed me what love was supposed to look like. And for that, I carry those lessons down to my own children, so thank you. That is the purpose of foster care. You are planting these seeds in these youth that might not otherwise have them. You can show them all the great, what life has to offer, because they might not see it in the tunnel vision that they're in. You have that power. So I love that story because it really does touch what foster care is. And on top of that, SAFI also provides foster to adopt. So like I said in the very beginning, my favorite part is seeing adoptions. So those families who do foster, I would say more than half end up adopting through us. They might foster so many kids that end up going home, and that is the goal. That's the goal of the state of Ohio, and that's our goal. But sometimes not every kid gets that luxury of going back home, right? So we do provide those adoption home studies and services and support for those happily ever afters. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I would love to take any questions, comments.
Sylvia, thanks for the presentation. Thanks to you and your colleagues for what you do.
Yes.
There is a huge need for this, much bigger than probably most of us would think or maybe at times care to think about. I know a young man here who's in his early 30s at this point, and he went through a couple foster homes. He probably went through a number. And by the time he was 5 years old, he had been in different situations, and 3 different times before age 5, was left different places, including just in front of a grocery store, by folks who no longer wanted to keep him. I'm glad to report he did end up getting adopted later and has a much better life because of it. I believe Toledo Public Schools has probably 100 foster kids in every class of kids. So this is a huge issue here, and it's not just in Toledo. 2 questions. So I think when you had your list of Ohio offices, Toledo was not one of them. So when you get kids from Lucas County calling or Toledo, what happens to them? And then how do you partner with Lucas County Children's Services or Adopt America or other organizations in this community doing related work?
Great question. So Findlay, our office that serves Lucas County, is just located in Findlay. It's just our hub. But we have case managers that live in Lucas County and around. Our assistant treatment director lives in this area, so we are very familiar with Toledo. Essentially, so many things are virtual, right? But also, our case managers come to you. So it's very rare that a family that we have in Lucas County would ever have to drive. We provide all those in-home services, right? And then as far as working with children services and how that relationship grows, they have their own foster homes. But sometimes the same as us, those foster homes are filled, or maybe they're not able to provide the services that the kid needs, right? So meaning some of our foster parents are able to take higher level kids. All of our foster parents are actually able to take higher level kids. So essentially, a county services department will call us when they don't have any options. Does that answer your question? Perfect.
Hi, my question might sound a little ignorant, but I'm asking with all sincerity. I hear a lot of stories about kids who age out. And I can't even imagine having a child live with you and then they turn 18 and then you kick them out. I mean, I just don't understand that. Is that really an issue? You know, why does that happen?
So, to the state, right, they are aging out, but that doesn't mean they necessarily age out of that home. It just goes into that category of the statistic. So when a youth ages out, we have some youth who are 18 to 21 who age out. Kids who are in foster care, they just naturally, whether it's from switching schools, trauma, learning, those kinds of things, they are always 1.5 years behind in school. So some of our youth actually don't even graduate until a little bit older. So when a kid ages out of the system, right, and I'm using quotation marks, they do receive some benefits. So some of the families will actually choose not to adopt these kids. They can get free education. They can get the free health insurance by the state of Ohio. State of Ohio wants these kids to succeed. So once they have technically aged out, they can kind of reap those benefits. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the kids are getting booted or kind of getting kicked out of the home. We've even have some families who kind of keep the kids, whether it's when they go on to college, they always have a home to come back to on holidays, so on and so forth. So we see a lot of that.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, for coming and giving us more insight into the additional resources in our community. I also started thinking about myself at 15 and going, oh, what would be on my sheep? So thank you so much for allowing me that opportunity of reflection. Thinking about, so I work with an organization that serves individuals with intellectual disabilities, and we have been emergency placement for individuals when neglect, abuse, etc. Arise, and there is not an appropriate, say, foster family or even other facility that can take in the individuals. And so we have over at Grady Services taken in individuals. And so I was curious what your relationship with different services that serve individuals with intellectual disabilities looks like. What does that process look like? Or is that something completely different?
So I'm actually, and I even told her I wasn't going to do this, I'm going to call on my treatment director to actually answer that question, if that's okay. Her name is Anna Nagy. She was kind enough to come and be a visitor and hear me speak today, but she does a lot of the clinical work, whereas I more or less do the marketing, I guess you would say. So do you have an answer for that? Thank you. She's going to hate me.
I'll get you later. Hi. So if we have any youth that come into our foster homes who do have an intellectual disability, we will work with the local county that they reside in and also the county of where they is home. A lot of times it does become an issue of who's paying, and it seems kind of ridiculous that that is what it comes down to. But then we will step in and at least try to advocate of, hey, we just need to be able to figure this out so this youth can have these services with like the Board of DD. I've seen our staff advocate for different waivers and if there's special equipment or anything that's needed for the youth. So we will work with not only, the Board of DD, but any other providers that is deemed that the youth needs those services. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it greatly.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would also like to kind of piggyback off of that and say what's really special about SAFI and why our case managers are so amazing is because since we are a private agency, our case managers do have a lower caseload than what you would typically see with children's services. So children's services, one case manager has to see anywhere from, I would just ballparking, anywhere from 50 to 100 kids a month. To where our case managers never have a caseload more of 20. So they're able to provide more therapeutic, intense support.
Sylvia, my question relates to actually kind of the human trafficking crisis side, and I wonder what the interaction is between your organization and then the efforts of authorities to prevent human trafficking, or if there's a formal relationship there or not.
So I would say in part of that training that we give our foster parents, we do touch on human trafficking. I actually saw that a lot when I worked in the detention and treatment centers, and even when I worked with the homeless population, right? So as far as kind of how are we working with those departments? I'm not sure if we've gathered that relationship, but I know we're so informed that we're passing all the information down to our foster parents so they can be aware, listen for signs. And I think anyone who has like human trafficking one-on-one, we know that it can happen when they're still in their home. Right? It's not kids that are missing. It's not kids that are like showing all these signs. It can be very minimal, but it still goes under that category. So just having open discussions about it and kind of that stigma, right? When you say that, people are like, oh, let's not talk about it. That makes me uncomfortable. No, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. Have you seen it? Do you know what the signs are? Things like that.
Hi, Sylvia. My name is Alana, and I wanted to emphasize that story about Mrs. Smith. I was born and raised in Ukraine, and I was raised in an orphanage as well. It's, of course, day and night compared to foster care in America, but we did have a beginning of such services in Ukraine back then, when a Christian family would take us for a weekend just to hang out with them, and it is true. All those values I still remember that. I still carry it around with me till these days, even though I don't know what's now with those people. So definitely wonderful story and service. Thank you for that. And my question is for labeling, as I also carry it till these days, some of the labeling I received back then. And who sets up that policy and how that can be changed? Because somebody who smoked once or escaped once from the window can be forever labeled as someone unruly.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That really does take a lot of courage and to share that information, so thank you. But yeah, so the labeling. So there's two sides to every story, right? Let me be the devil's advocate for a quick second. We don't want to set our foster parents up to fail. So if we know their like big no is absolutely no smoking, we know we're not going to put someone who's kind of experimenting with that into their home, because we don't want our foster parent to fail and we don't want to re-traumatize the kid, right? So that's why we by law tell them everything we know about the youth. That's me playing devil's advocate. On the flip side, we have very intense conversations with our foster parents. When you become a foster parent, you fill out a 5-page document called a child characteristics checklist. It is a state document, so the wording is like this teeny tiny, right? But it's basically 5 pages of everything you're willing to consider and everything you're not willing to consider. In my experience, I'm still Googling things that are on this list, because it's like, why is this even a conversation, right? With that being said, part of that intense conversation with our foster parents getting licensed is kind of asking them, hey, you said no aggressive behaviors. Have you never slammed a door, right? To the dad, or like, have you ever never punched a bag? Right? Don't you think that you have the resources and values to teach these kids on how to put their anger in positive motion? So having just quick examples of like, hey, have you thought about this, right? Or what does this labeling even really mean? So we can set our foster parents up for success to take, right, these kids that otherwise other homes are saying no to.
I just want to say thank you real quick, and I know the time is up, but I just want to say thank you, because I was married to somebody that was fostered, and even with all the help and love that he got, there still was like a lack of empathy and everything like that, but his life would have been so different. You know, we have a child together, and we are recently divorced, but one of the things I had an issue with is connecting. You know, it was hard to connect, and I know that his family adopted him when his mother couldn't be there and his father was killed, and so if they didn't do that, his life would have been completely different. So I just want to tell everybody, like, that small time, because he was with his aunt for a couple years, he was with a foster mom for a couple months. That small time changed his whole life. He went to college, he has a great job, you know, and then even now, I just look at foster kids so different, and I want to do my part too, but I don't want to adopt yet, because I have 4 kids of my own. But everybody do it if you can do it.
All right. Thank you, Sylvia.
Appreciate it. I'm going to give you something.
We appreciate your time today. Before you run off stage, I wanted to give you something in appreciation for your time. It's a book entitled Historical Tales of Toledo. It's written by our own past president, Clint Mock. We'll also be making a donation in your name to the Polio Plus Fund, which is Rotary International's effort to eradicate polio from the face of the planet. So thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it. Okay, join us next week when we will have Wade Kapsakavich here to talk. Again, just a reminder, if you have a number of guests you're going to bring, please tell Jackie about it. There's also a sign up in the Spoke. That's probably the easiest way to do it, to make sure that we register the right number of guests for the mayor's speech. So we appreciate it. Then on October 6th, we'll be out in the community. We'll do our Service Above Self Day for this quarter, and those are the projects are going to be in the sign up. If you hit that, then you'll be able to find them. There are a number of projects that the committees have been working on, so thank you committee chairs and also committees for putting together those fantastic projects. We're looking forward to each of those. Sign up if you haven't already. There are 2 committee meetings today as well. The Foundation Development Committee will be meeting in Summit A, and Youth Services Committee will be in Summit B. Thanks again for joining us today, guys, and go out and unite some folks for good. Appreciate it.